Committee where they had a secret behind the closed door meeting and they have this somehow we were certified even though the whole reason didn't want to go up yourself. Are you on one? No. There's probably several. I don't know, Terry. I don't know what to do.
There's a shell and one
not really. I mean, if you want to find your
Heather's right there. Oh, and then there's the tree with you.
Lee, Bevier, and Pulaski.
I get a request to go to
Where's the deeper rat? Are we on the south side of the hill or what? I won't ever see him, buddy.
I don't want people in the building. Hey, y'all gonna have to they put a bottleneck here. There's Jennifer Lancaster. So I'm going to have to get my bag up. Sorry, I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to kind of send people in the line to go in, and then I'll try to go in last.
Really cool show. Go ahead later.
Check in. Since then, we've had emphasis on have taken over a lot of these county committees. They're in a intercommittee discussion. That discussion is kind of the effort to even have that discussion was defeated by a few votes in terms of members that could vote in the local committee. Now, this is another effort to put into service leadership and remove the latest class. All right, folks, it is 12:35. That means it is time for the Just the Right Angle broadcast. Coming to you live from Arkansas. I title this broadcast, Who is Telling Who How to Vote? And then a little thing there about I'm not voting for Biden. It's a little Twitter thing that's gotten popular. And I'll explain that in a little bit. I first want to tell people about a issue that has come up. This was brought forth by Conduit News. So you can see it's from 2 days ago. And it talks about an email, but it really seems more like an edict. And I'll just read this to you for those who can't see this. I'll also talk about this on Podbean. Podbean is my radio broadcast. And it's online where if you want to just listen in. But on my Podbean, I've talked about this issue before with the powers that be within the Republican Party and how they seem to want to do things behind closed doors, and then we, the people who volunteer our time and money thinking that we're fighting for freedom, have to obey them. And there has been recently, especially after the Tea Party movement and with the emergence of Donald Trump, a kickback against this type of attitude by what we call the establishment, the consultant class, the elite, the ones who lose elections and then blame conservatives for it. The Mitt Romneys, the Liz Cheneys, the failures, the ones who fail and somehow get promoted. Those people. And it's been happening all across the nation. I often talk about the Nebraska Freedom Coalition, how they fired and kicked out their group. So I'm going to read this here. Happening across the country, Republican state parties are choosing who they want to send as RNC delegates and then sending that list to the Trump campaign. The state parties then say the Trump campaign provided us with a list of the preferred candidates. Okay, that's a lie. So what they're doing is they're lying to people. They're saying, hey, look, this is who Trump wanted or who the Trump campaign wanted, when in reality, it's what they wanted. These RNC staffers. And these RNC staffers, who we usually, I don't know how their decision process, but it's usually based on who's politically connected. And what they do is and this has been something like this has been done before. It's not illegal, but it is, you could say, maybe it's unethical. This is nothing new. In 2020, they had an RNC list. It was so stacked with what we call establishment picks that a lot of people quit the party over this. So, of course, this is the RPA's establishment list. This would be voted on May 11th for 1st and 2nd district. And then the other districts will have their, what they call district conventions. There are 4 Republican districts here in Arkansas. Each district can have their own convention, or they can combine them. The 1st and 2nd district have combined their districts. And they'll have meetings. They'll have special guests. But then they all conduct business, and that business is choosing delegates to the RNC convention. RNC, Republican National Committee, Republican National Convention in this place. And again, this has been a fight for a long time. In the case of Arkansas, I don't know what's going on in your state, but in the case of Arkansas, most of these people are in the governor's administration. They've had some kind of appointment by the governor, or are donors or lobbyists. I'm going to do, and these are the ones with the asterisk by them. And the ones with the asterisks are the one that you are supposed to vote for because they said so, not because of any input from you. This decision was not made with any input from any county chairs or past delegates, or if it was, it wasn't made public. They met behind closed doors and they chose these people. And you can see, and you can go to this post here. I'm going to go ahead and post the link to this so you can see some of the comments regarding this issue. I'll put it in the conduit page, and then I'll put it in the Facebook page here so you can see what it is I'm talking about. A lot of people are rightfully angry about this because it's a bunch of people behind closed doors making decisions on who you should choose to go to the Republican National Convention. And it's a kind of an arrogant attitude that these people have. Now, I know that this guy, Jack Ladyman, for instance, is a state representative or a state senator. He's in the state legislature. And here's 2nd District. This is the Attorney General, who has also been the Lieutenant Governor. They bounce back and forth. Jamie Barker, I believe, works for the governor's office. Doyle Webb was a former Republican Party chair. He's also running for what's known as Republican National Committee man, who is someone else who goes to the RNC. Gretchen Conger is Sarah Huckabee Sanders' chief of staff. Heather McKim, I believe, works for Attorney General Griffin's office one time, and now works for the treasurer. Real Rockefeller, who is a distant relative of the Rockefeller family. John Nell Fulmer was the former Republican Party of Arkansas chair, and then she later on, and things did not go too well under her leadership. A lot of people were rightfully upset over the way conservatives were treated. I myself had the police called on me multiple times, along with other people, because we were trying to make the Republican Party more conservative, especially on issues such as open primaries, getting them closed so that Democrats can't sabotage our elections. And I'll come up to why that's important a little bit. Another issue was, should Republicans actually be Republican when they run for office? Surprisingly, that efforts to get that rule passed has been voted down. You can see here the comments here from various people. This guy named Keith Moore is apparently on this list, but he's not part of the establishment, along with Becky McHughes. They weren't given their magic stars. And then here's 3rd District. This guy, I believe, is a state representative. Robin Lundstrom's a state senator. Jim Dotson, I believe, is in the legislature as well. This is a lady from Conduit News. Tom Lundstrom, this is the husband of Robin Lundstrom. Joe Maynard, he's with Conduit News, the very organization that posted this. Here's another person, Sharon Lloyd. Now, for those who don't know, Sharon Lloyd was the person who, in the Arkansas Republican Women's Group, that tried to kick out Lori Justice and, what's her name from Cleveland County? Jackie Martin, and I think 2 other people, for trying to support conservatives and the Hot Springs Village Republican Women's Group. And she demanded that they be banned for 2 years and issue an apology and be all kinds of punishments for upsetting the status quo in that little club. But they're wanting her to represent the Republicans in the national convention. And I think more and more people are starting to realize that these decisions should be made at least with some bit of discussion and dialogue. You can actually debate these during the meeting. So I don't know why they're making these recommendations and treating them like almost edicts. And again, why does this matter? Because the Republican Party right now is the biggest political machine capable of at least saving this nation on a political level. The third parties are useless. They're not going to do anything. The libertarians won't bother to try to win elections. The Green Party, well, I mean, they're, besides the fact they're socialists and fire wackos anyway, they're not going to do anything. There's a Constitution Party, I know, had their convention not too long ago. Most of the other organizations, they're just not, there's no other organization that can be set up, organized, and, put into action that can win the elections and defeat and win not just the presidency, but the congressional races and even some of the local races. Sadly, the libertarians would focus more on local races. There's actually a libertarian named Michael White who's running for state rep an area, if the libertarians would stop wasting their money on presidential races and focus on something smaller like that, they might have a chance in making a difference of some kind. But they don't do that. And that's why organizations like Turning Point USA and Act for America, which is in the groups Federation for American Immigration Reform, Numbers USA, so many groups I've worked with before, and even the Tea Party are realizing we can't just form our own party. That's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. We do not have the time to do that. You need to fix the Republican Party. And the thing is that it can be done. As I've mentioned before, it's been done in other states, and it's been partially done in Arkansas. It's been done here. At this meeting right here, which I have here, yeah, we were left out in the cold for several minutes, and then they tried to waste time and stall to try to keep me from filming. They actually did contact the police to sick them on me to try to tell me I wasn't allowed to film there. But once the police realized there was nothing to do, and other people that lied to me saying they don't want me to film, I stood up to them, and other people still alongside me. Melanie Golick, who, as you know, was involved in using a flag to block footage of the Credentials Committee a long time ago, was voted out and replaced with Jennifer Lancaster for 2nd District's chair. And so, again, great victory in terms of fighting for people. We've taken over several committees across the state. A lot of committees are now putting what's known as not recommended in terms of some of these bad candidates. They're letting people know, hey, these people aren't good for office. We don't support them. But there is a few characters I want to talk about who are on this list. And I want to get back to the 2nd District one, because this is the one that there were actually 3 names that kind of stood out to me that I really think people need to know about. One of them is Chris Caldwell. Here he is. Chris Caldwell. Chris Caldwell is a consultant. He is a Rhino establishment consultant type. Now, here's some information about him. He was a campaign manager for Sarah Huckabee Sanders. This was when she was governor-elect. She hadn't been sworn in yet. And he created his group, Caldwell Consulting. And he worked before for John Bozeman in the 2016 reelection bid, where, thanks to the help of voting machines, Bozeman was able to avoid a runoff. Bozeman, by the way, recently voted for more of your tax dollars to be given to the terrorists in Gaza, as well as the stupid funding for dumb projects, gazillions of dollars in foreign aid, which will be used to enrich corrupt government officials and be used in acts of terror. Yeah, he did that. And he's been pretty much a regular for that kind of stuff the whole time. We could have replaced him with a much better person in Jan Morgan, but that didn't happen. Mainly because, of course, he's bankrolled by the big special interest. Of course, the media certainly gives him lots of free time. And, of course, voting machines, which I think tipped the favor in his balance, along with French Hill. And then before that, he was some kind of Delta Regional Authority. And he's been a big staffer for John Bozeman. And that's the thing we need to focus on, is some of these staff members, who they are, because oftentimes they're the ones that actually read the bills and oftentimes write them. And a lot of people are focusing on, if we kick this elected person out of office, we'll make things better. Oftentimes that's not the case, because the same corrupt government consultant that you never hear about, like this guy, he'll just go on to that campaign. If you were to kick out Sarah Huckabee Sanders, you'd replace him with Lieutenant Governor, which I believe is Tim Griffin. I have to say that because they've bounced back and forth between him and Leslie Rutledge. I had to think about it for a second because they've literally been for both offices. And Tim Griffin will probably have the same type of people. Matter of fact, some of the people on this list are staff members from his office. And here's his LinkedIn account, Caldwell Consulting. You should know that, and here's a picture of him. You should also know that Ashley Caldwell, his wife, is also on the list. The holier than thou list that they want us to, that they demand we accept. And yeah, this guy's largely responsible for a lot of the problems in the Republican Party. He was there when they sabotaged the efforts in the Pulaski County delegates to the state convention, the last one. He actually got a bunch of pizza for everybody. I think maybe because he felt a little guilty and because he was, of course, part of the keeping up with the charade. But yeah, this guy's going to be in the way. You'll see him next to Sarah Huckabee Sanders on many events. And again, there's other consultant firms. There's Impact Management. There's another one called JDC or something. And a lot of these other consultants need to be investigated, find out who they are. And some of them need to be banned from the Republican Party because they've been nothing but a problem. Of course, again, it's hard to find out even who they are, let alone where they actually stand on any issues. Another person on the list is Alexa Henning. Now, this is her Twitter account. She's a communications director for the governor. She has been named in the infamous scandal known as Podium Gate. Now, for those who don't know, share this tab. Podium Gate is this big, massive scandal where a podium was bought by the Sarah Huckabee Sanders campaign for around, I think it was close to $20,000. And people started to ask and fill out what's known as FOIA, Freedom of Information Acts, as to why a podium was being bought with $20,000, and if that podium was in fact bought with taxpayer funds. A lot of questions started to be asked about this, and rightfully so. You do want to keep. There's obviously bigger things going on. I mean, we just gave AATN $17 million for those leftists that run that organization to spew out propaganda and a bunch of shows that hardly anybody watches. And of course, they supposedly are the only people that can maintain the emergency broadcast system. I think if people work hard enough, we could separate that system from the PBS AATN network, but they don't want to. We just had a fiscal session where that was debated. And I've contacted several legislators, and they've posted and contacted about that. Supposedly, they're going to work on, separating what's needed from the public broadcasting system in Arkansas from the stuff that's not. The same issue was in the last session, so it was something that needed to have been done several sessions ago. But nevertheless, Podium Gate was. As more investigations, it turned out that Podium Gate was apparently a way to pay off some consultants for Sarah Huckabee Sanders to do what's a possible presidential run. It wasn't illegal, but it seemed kind of off. And apparently, when it was found out and discovered, the Republican Party of Arkansas had apparently a slush fund that they use to pay pay for the podium. So the Republican Party of Arkansas paid for the podium in the end. Now, I don't know how much money is in that Republican Party of Arkansas slush fund. I know it's not being used to offset some of the costs for some of these conventions. By the way, when you go to these conventions and when you become a member of a county committee, usually there's some dues involved. It can be anywhere from $20 to $40. When you go to these conventions to vote, the district convention and the state convention, usually you have to pay money for that as well. And of course, you have to pay for gas. You give up time with, you give up a Saturday oftentimes. And I have wondered if they use some of the money that they use on that podium to offset some of those costs if we could have more people involved in the Republican Party. Maybe we could have a few paid jobs. By the way, I've seen a post where the left is paying people, I think $18.50 an hour plus bonuses to do door-to-door campaigning for Biden. The Republican Party has nothing close to that. Turning Point USA has a few people that they have on that that are doing that. And there's a few other organizations that will pay people to go knock on doors and make phone calls. But it's few and far between. And it's nowhere near the spending level that the Republican Party's done. And we saw this on a national level. This is one of the reasons why Ronna McDaniel was fired, because she was spending money on limo rides and consultants, Chris Caldwell type people. But the money that was needed to be spent on door-to-door campaign, which really needs to be worked on now, well before the elections get started, it was next to nothing. And that's why she was kicked out, along with about 60 other folks. But anyway, this lady was apparently involved in Podiumgate. And here's another picture of her with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I don't know who this guy is. Yeah, she's communications director. Now, I'm pretty sure if there were a conservative that were involved in a major scandal, a lot of these establishment types would start clutching their pearls and saying, well, this person really doesn't need to be in office because they have an impending issue, or they may embarrass the party. But since this is an establishment type, the fact that she's involved in the Podiumgate issue is just kind of being ignored by the people who made this decision. The third person I want to show on the list and just give a shout out to is this guy, John Nabholz, the very bottom, number 23. Now, John Nabholz is in Conway, and he has apparently been bankrolling a lot of campaigns. And overall, I've met this guy a few times. I haven't met I don't think I've met the other two, but I have met this guy. Seems like a nice guy, but if you look at this post, and I'll show the overall post, you can see some of the comments down. I started to ask some questions. You can see a lot of the comments here. This is where I found out about Alexa Henning. But it turns out I wanted to find out, somebody stated a comment. I wonder if Trump knows at least one of these preferred people also filed as a Nikki Haley, and it's actually should be delegate. They put laugh signs there, but yeah, when you file, you can file as a delegate for someone else in the Republican primary election. Nikki Haley, for those who don't know, was the establishment lady who decided to waste thousands of dollars in a hate Trump campaign to string out the primary election, knowing full well she had no chance of winning, and really became hateful and bitter about it. So I asked which one of these people on this chosen one list was actually a Nikki Haley delegate, and it turns out it was John Nabholz. I asked who's making these decisions, and apparently also got this information. Nabholz's PAC also donated to Maggie, a Democrat. And the name of his PAC is Nabholz PAC. Now, I tried to figure out who Maggie is. And this is when I came across this story right here. Conway election won by 10 votes. Incumbent edges out conservative. Conway Democrat Steve Maggie is on his way to re-election, increasing his lead after Faulkner County officials counted provisional ballots Monday. As of Monday, Maggi had a 10-point vote lead over Republican candidate Trent Miner in the race for State House District 56 in Conway. Libertarian candidate Howard Heffington finished in third. Now, Trent Miner overall had been running a very tough campaign. I think I even helped in his a little bit. Now, Trent Miner had worked in Congressman French Hill's reelection campaign in 2020. And by the way, I tried to campaign for the guy running against him. That was Conrad Reynolds, and had worked for Asa Hutchinson, who, as I mentioned before, is actually a puppet of Communist China. But then again, I myself have worked for people that turned out to be, bad actors as well. Most people have. I volunteered for Bush Sr. Or Bush Jr., not knowing he would start a war in Iraq, deliberately allow the war to go on instead of actually destroying the weapons of mass destruction. Instead, they end up being moved to Syria, and kept the roads open between Iraq and Iran so that Iran could do a proxy war against us and prolong that war, among many other things, and paved the way for, and did other stupid things which end up paving the way for Barack Obama. And you can go as far as Donald Trump. Donald Trump donated to Democrats a long time ago when he was a businessman. But because in part of the financing of John Nabholz, we ended up with a Democrat in the state legislature instead of a Republican, apparently. I don't know how much money Nabholz PAC donated to this Maggi guy, but if he won by 10 votes, then apparently it was a factor. Now, yours truly actually helped campaign against the Bryant millage tax of 2017 and defeated that tax increase by 8 votes. If I had not gotten involved in that campaign, the Bryant millage folks would have been out $17 million. And I say that because they did push another tax increase a few years later, and that one was $17 million less that the schools needed. So anyway, so this is one of the three these are the three characters I wanted to highlight regarding this edict demanding that we, the people, when we go to these conventions, vote for. Fortunately, there is a lot of people that are saying no within the Arkansas Republican Party. As I mentioned before, they are urging people to get involved and vote against the establishment. And so what I myself am going to do when this district, during the district convention, is vote the opposite of what this list is. And by the way, people can make their own list if they wish to. People can just say, no, I'm not going to obey you. I'm going to do my own thing. Well, folks, there has also been a very somewhat a viral post. It was done initially by Democrats, and I think it's just entitled "I'm voting for Biden," and it was done by 2 little kiddos. Oh, where is that original post? I'm trying to find the original post of this. It was some kid. And I can't remember who it is. But these 2 well-dressed young kiddos. Here he is, Sam Schwartz. And then this is the kid. He said he's who he is, his age, where he is, and he's voting for Joe Biden. And then this guy, and I have to use quotes on that, he does effeminate looking individual. As you can see, they had 9,000 likes, but 14,000 comments. And I pointed out that it's really been ratioed because a lot of people are like, no, we don't like this. But since then, a lot of other people have commented their name and their age and where they're from and saying who they're voting for. And it's overwhelmingly not for Biden. Lots of people are being, I'm not voting for Biden. General Mike Flynn, that looks like some AI thing. And yes, this person is correct. Joe Biden is a pedophile, according to Ashley Biden's diary. And the behavior you've seen when he's around little girls. And people are now posting their, I'm not voting for Biden. The final variant is communism. And then people are just posting at random. So, of course, yours truly decided to do his part. And here's mine. And of course, as I posted on here, I do a broadcast on these issues, Podbean, Rumble, and on Facebook. This also become a video on YouTube. My lovely wife. This was actually at a Republican event. Speaking of which, the May 18th state committee meeting is supposed to be taking place in the Grand Ballroom at the Lincoln Doubletree, which I believe is this room, if not mistaken. That room holds up to 500 people. Now, if you go to the Republican Party website, in the past, guests were allowed to go to these events, but now the option for guests is not allowed. Usually you would pay $20 to be a voting member or a proxy, and then you paid $10 if you wanted to be a guest. In the past, guests could be anybody. You didn't have to be a Republican. But now they've taken that out. Now they're claiming they do not have space for guests. Okay. The people that are able to vote in these conventions is the chair and then the district committee man and woman. That's 3 people from counties. There are 75 counties. Now, if you do the math, get out the old calculator, 75 times 3 is 225 people. Now, there will likely be other staff members. You can actually add an extra 10. There will also be a number of delegates. Now, these are the delegates. Now, there's the delegate list, and I'm not going to count all of them. That would take too long. Sorry, folks, I didn't mean to share. This is the tab I meant to share. But let me go to, Rebecca and I researched this before. Well, last time we looked at this, I have to type in Little Rock. The Little Rock Doubletree had different arrangements where you could have number of people depending on how the shape of the room was. The last we checked, the grand ballroom could be arranged to hold either 900 people, 500 people, or 100 people. Now, I am assuming that they're not going to arrange the room for just 100 people. So that means it's either 500 people or 900 people. So when the Republican Party is claiming that they don't have room for people, I have a hard time believing them. And so I wish I could, trying to find their meeting rooms. I can't quite find it. Anyway, I don't believe this lie that they don't have enough room for guests. I think they're making that up. I think they need to state how many rooms seats they have, and approximate. They need to show how many guests they have and explain why they picked a room where they wouldn't have guests, if that is the actual case, and who failed to get a room large enough. I mean, we've had events at the Little Rock other hotel, not the Excelsior, what's it called? It's the one in West Little Rock, and it held well over 300 people. I don't think they're going to have 300 people at this event. And again, the grand ballroom at the DoubleTree, I know I've researched it before. I can't find it now, but it does hold up to 500 people. Easily. So I don't know. Again, this is one of these tricks they do. They don't want people involved, but more and more people are just saying, no, we're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to be ordered and bossed around by a bunch of sniveling consultant cowards who like to meet behind closed doors and make decisions that affect us. We're tired of laws being written behind closed doors, like the law that allowed Chinese crypto mining facilities to be placed in Arkansas. We're tired of money going to AETN and the State Library Association and climate change projects, which the overwhelming majority of Arkansans are deeply opposed to. We're tired of the folks like Randy Zook and others. These are the globalists. We're tired of paying money to go to an organization which apparently has thousands of dollars lying around to bail out Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but we still have to get nickel and dime to pay $20 to go to this convention and pay for gas and everything else. When in reality, county chairs and others should be paid. In a just world, the money that's being wasted on Chris Caldwell and others, it would actually be going to us, we the people. Yes, you're correct. Thanks, Shelley Barron, for that information. No, Lieutenant Governor. Okay, Leslie Rutledge is now Lieutenant Governor. AG is Tim Griffin. Before it was, I think it was 2 years ago, it was reversed. that's I mixed it up. And as I said before, it's pretty much the same thing. And just like with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's pretty much the same thing. They could almost play musical chairs. They probably will. when Sarah Huckabee Sanders, unless she's voted out of office, if she does 2 terms, or if she decides to run for president or whatever, or becomes VP for Trump, which may happen, they'll just either one of these people will run for that office. Both of them have ran for, I think, governor before. And like I said before, in the end, it doesn't matter until we remove the consultant class from power, which we are doing, and we're making progress. Things aren't going to get much better. Yes, so there'll be some slight improvements, but it's going to be, next to nothing. We still got an income tax. Like I said, we had a fiscal session. We could have gotten rid of millions of dollars in waste. We didn't do it. But we got to kick out these characters, the characters on this list. And I decided just for fun to add my own list. You can see it in the thumbnail here. Oh, wait, not quite. Here we go. Just for fun. And I'll try to tell people, here's my list here. Asa the China Puppet, Melanie Flagg Gulick, Virginia Podium Beckett, Randy Globalist Zook, Asa Nephew 1, Asa Nephew 2. For those who don't know, that Jeremy Hutchinson, who is actually serving jail for corruption involving our medical program, which needs to have been removed. And the nephew number 2 is Jim Hendren, who pretended to be a Republican and has now formed the group For AR People, which is a Democrat front pretending to be nonpartisan. And I decided, hey, you know what? If you're going to be this friendly, you might as well add Democrat Mike Beebe. He was a Democrat governor who ushered in Obamacare. Might as well add Bill Clinton. He's probably one of our most famous guys. Vince Foster, he was connected to Bill Clinton. You can kind of look him up and see what happened to him. George Soros, who bankrolled a lot of the Palestinian protests and other things. Volodymyr Zelensky, we're giving him billions in aid, trusting him to defend Ukraine from Putin. Of course, he's not defending Ukraine. He's only defending the political jobs like the Burisma jobs and the bio labs and the other corruption that's going on there. Xi Jinping, he is the dictator of China. The government officials will call him president. He is not media will call him president. He is not a president. He is a communist dictator responsible for the murder of millions, responsible for the deaths with the spread of COVID. Of course, he's not the only one, but he is the leader of the communist regime there. Any illegal aliens, because, of course, Democrats and most rhinos love illegal aliens. And, of course, the Palestinian protesters, because why not? So that's my additional asterisk list that I decided to add for fun. If you want to add your own list, go ahead and do that. Well, feel free to just kind of have fun with whoever you think the powers that be want to represent us at the Republican National Convention. And if they ask who, well, it doesn't matter. Well, folks, that's it. Hope you all have a wonderful day. There are some impending storms. More rain is expected with some winds. I know there was a tornado in Hot Springs. So as far as I can tell, everything was okay with that. But just be careful out there. Otherwise, find a way to get involved. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. It's a proverb. Leave you with a Bible verse. Speaking of which, do develop a strong relationship with the Lord. You'll need it. Try to get to where you can be not as dependent on the overall system. Y'all have a good day.